Auzubillahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. So brothers and sisters, what we're talking about is the fiqh of dawah. What is it that we're really calling to? Who are we calling? And who's the one that's called? So today we'll be discussing the call. What is the call to? As you know, the Anbiya, the prophets that came, they came to call people to what? They came to call to La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, let's say, for the Prophet ﷺ, or all of the Anbiya previously, like Musa alayhi salam or Isa alayhi salam, they all were all Muslims and they were all calling to this part, is that there's only one God and He deserves to be worshipped. So what we're saying is, brothers and sisters, so when we talk about dawah, in the dawah, we need to be focused on calling to this. Why? Because when we look at, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us in the Quran, what is really the main essence of calling non-Muslims to? It is not to, your personal opinion, your personal biases. It's not calling to your culture. It's not calling to your imam. It's not calling to, your worldviews. It's calling people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why do we see this? We see in the dawah that sometimes, brothers and sisters, we get into these discussions about, what's happening in Palestine or what's happening to the Uyghurs and, how you do wudu and, how, what wudu is really good for you and so on and so forth. These are important topics to maybe have them at some point. But if somebody dies in the state of kufr, does it really matter if you understand how you explained about wudu? Or does it really matter that you explain to him about hijab and, how the woman is pious and so on and so forth? This wouldn't really matter. So what we're saying here in the dawah, brothers and sisters, you always have to call to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, La ilaha illallah, that there is no other deity that deserves to be worshipped. And what's the dalil? What's the evidence for this? When we look at the Quran, we see that 1/3 of the Quran is all about calling to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Why do I say that? Because if really it's all about your prayer, your wudu, or your culture or hijab, but we don't find that in the teachings in the Quran. The 1/3 of the Quran is all about, let's say for example, Moses, peace be upon him. We don't see when he started fasting, when did he finish fasting. We don't see, Yaqub alayhi salam's, what time did he pray in the morning, how many rakats did he pray, or, Yusuf alayhi salam, how much sadaqah did he give? He did 2.5%, did he give 1.5%? We don't see these details. What we do see is all of them calling to La ilaha illallah, that there is no other deity that deserves to be worshipped except Allah. So we need to apply that same logic, because if we don't, so what we're doing is, if we get really bogged down in just talking about salah and wudu and maybe your culture and what's happening in your political worldviews, then really you're not calling to Allah, you're calling to these worldviews. Jazakallah khair. This was the main message for today. Assalamu alaikum.